morning. We'd like to welcome you to our presentation here at the Charleston Conference. We will be talking about the massive periodical deselection project that we've just completed here at East Tennessee State University. I'm Blair Jones, Associate Dean of Services, Technologies, and Collections at Shared Library.
And I'm Katie Libby, Cataloging and Metadata Librarian at Shared Library.
So I want to start off by talking about how we got here, why we decided to take on this project. We had several complaints over the last few years from students. They wanted more study spaces, collaborative and individual spaces to study in. We'd heard that through surveys, word of mouth, just general complaints that we've gotten from them. We knew, like with most libraries, we can't just add a floor or expand our building. We also couldn't plan on the building, like creating a new library, because our building is only 25 years old, so it's relatively young compared to most. So we had to start looking internally. What kind of spaces do we have in our building that we can modify to meet the needs that we have? We really focused on our bound periodicals. They were located on room, we call it room 204. It's a pretty large portion of our second floor. They're also in room 257. Bound periodicals are easy targets because we can easily see what's available online through our subscriptions, but also through our rapid eye service. We also knew that they were taking up a massive portion of the second floor of our building, like I said. So you'll see in a minute how much space we're talking about. We also had a need to update the collection and get it in the order that we prefer. We do have electronic compact stacks in our building. We did. They were starting to fail. We could not afford to repair them, and we also really just didn't want to put a lot of money into those over and over and over again, just making sure we could keep them functioning. So we had a plan to get rid of those. Our bound periodicals were spread across three locations. We had a set of electronic compact shelving, a set of manual compact shelving, and a set of static shelving throughout two rooms, room 204 and room 257. All items in those collections were split, but they also were shelved by title. And so we wanted to make sure we maintained that practice when we moved them into their new location. We also had some great ideas for new initiatives for new technology spaces in our building. Our Dean Atkins, is very interested in creating an innovative technology hub for our students here on campus. And so this space was identified as a great location for that. We wanted to start by transforming the print periodicals collection into usable study space. That's what we've done now. And the longer term project includes creating a new home for student-centered innovative technologies, including VR, AR, makerspaces, and collaboration spaces. This has opened the door to several collaborations for us across campus. Right now, we're partnering with digital media and with our Hammer College of Education and Human Development to try to get some software in place to help students in both of those programs. This will be a multi-fiscal year process. So we're just starting now with the smaller rooms that we'll talk about in just a second, but it will spread into the larger space. And so we want to talk about how much. We had about 6,000 titles in our bound periodical collection, a little over 89,000 volumes. The spaces that we needed to clear in room 204 included static shelving, it was 2,716 shelves, electronic compact shelving, 1,274 shelves. The square footage of room 204 is 9,529 square feet. That includes a lab you'll see in the photo on the right. It's a computer lab, and also all of the static shelving and electronic compact shelving that we had in that space. The lab will remain after this project is over. We also talk a little bit about room 205. This space was connected to 204. It did not have stacks in it before. It was used as a lab by another department. When they moved out of our building, we reclaimed the space, and we're going to start with that as our hub for innovative technology, and then eventually move into this larger space. The space that we need to move all these periodicals into is our room 257. It is home to the manual compact shelving that we have. The space itself is about 2,909 square feet, and the number of shelves in there currently is 3,563. Please keep in mind that in room 257, we already had a large collection of bound periodicals in that space, so we needed to weed through those as well to make room for the entire collection. The total cost of renovation was a little over $150,000. That included removing the items, removing the shelving, removing the carpet and replacing that, paint, and then also we have a lot of windows you can't really see in this photo because they were blocked by the stacks. We did add shades for those windows once the project was complete. Again, that's not including the technology that we're wanting to add to the space. This is just the basic renovations we needed for the space. The projected timeline for the project was from February to August of 2023. Our completion goal date was August 28th. That was the first start of our fall semester. We'll let you know if we made it or not.
So the next thing to do is decide how are we going to go about withdrawing all these periodicals that we have to do. We contracted with OCLC Green Glass for serials. We had worked with Green Glass before on a monograph project. It's also a lot more efficient for them to aggregate the data than to try to do it ourselves with limited staff. They also allow you to define comparator groups. HathiTrust is automatically included, but you can choose print periodical retention programs, peer libraries, interlibrary loan partners, and more. Their query interface is extensive. It allows you to manipulate your data to create custom reports with any number of facets, collection location, the number of holdings in OCLC, whether it's held by HathiTrust or the print archives. You can also combine existing queries. So if you had two different queries and you wanted to merge them, you could. The illustrations on the right are screenshots of a mere portion of what you can use in their query interface. There was just too much to fit on a single screen. Green Glass also creates canned reports of key metrics, items with 0 uses, more than 100 US holdings, fewer than 5, whether it's unique in Tennessee, and so on. They also will provide you with remediation lists that will allow us to clear up our holdings in both OCLC and our own catalog. And you can see an illustration of that screen and also how many things are in each of them. It's sort of sad. But records that don't have OCLC numbers that they were unable to match with an existing record. Records that don't match based on OCLC number with the author and title. They assign records if they can, numbers if they can, and embarrassingly, things which don't have our holdings set in OCLC. Now, a lot of those are government documents, which we get our records for through archives, so that's not quite as bad as it looks. So how did we prepare? Well, something I forgot to put on the slide is that we did, and Blair will talk more about this later, but we did publicize this through our library faculty advisory committee. We warned them that this was coming before we started the process. But there are forms for OCLC for you to fill out to describe the data you're sending in, what format you're sending, what you're including, et cetera, et cetera. And I worked with our systems manager on that. You meet with Green Glass reps to discuss, we met via Zoom, to discuss the data you're sending and also get training in the use of Green Glass. So what data did we send? I'm going to talk Mark. All the records in our catalog with the bib level S, which is serials, for both our library and the Quillen College of Medicine library, which is also part of ETSU, but administratively separate. We discovered we could send them all for the same cost, so why not? But we included our holdings information and also use data back to 2007. We are concentrating on the 2 locations, the bound periodicals well, they're all bound periodicals, but that's what we call the collection in room 204, and the compact stacks that were split between 204 and 207. We also have data for serials in the circulating stacks with our book collection, monographic serials, microforms that we can use later, and the Quillen College of Medicine has the data to use as they wish. So we then had to create criteria for what we were going to keep and what we were going to withdraw. We considered for retention titles that were relevant to the university's curriculum, of regional interest, Appalachia, East Tennessee, Western North Carolina, Southern Virginia, Southeastern Kentucky, and of course ETSU publications and things published in the Johnson City area where ETSU is located. If something was not in the Hothy Trust, especially public domain or available in a print archive, we considered it for retention. If something might be rare or valuable, if there was less than 100 copies in the US, it was unique in Tennessee. If it was a 19th century serial, we considered it for retention. Our first phase was items that had more than 100 holdings in OCLC. Later, we looked at a list of things that had fewer than 100 holdings. So we also considered how much of the title we held in our collection. If we had a lot of volumes missing, or we held less than 75% of the span of the title, we considered withdrawing it. Usage was not a primary consideration, but if a title was targeted for withdrawal and had been used, we considered it on a case-by-case basis whether we would keep it. Then we had some really outdated stuff in our collection. The Journal of Micrographics from 1970s was in our collection, and we decided that probably didn't need to stay. As we are reshelving, we're finding a few anomalies, titles that only have 1 or 2 volumes. We'll look at those using our criteria, looking at green glass and decide whether we want to keep it or not. And there are a multitude of unbarcoded items in the collection, which makes me very sad, that we're going to look at. How many volumes did we need to withdraw to fit the entire collection into compact stacks in 257? Dean Adkins and our facilities manager calculated a total of approximately 45,000 volumes. So we used green glass to filter out titles with more than 100 holdings in the locations we were concerned with in the bound periodicals collection and the compact stacks. And we came up with a list of about 52,000 items. We downloaded that list and split it into subject liaison areas. Our systems manager added our subjects to the list of titles using the OCLC conspectus. And we reviewed the list to divide it up into subject areas. And the liaison librarians reviewed the titles in their area disciplines to select titles to consider for withdrawal.
There were some sheets that we had from Green Glass and Jada that didn't really fall into specific subject areas. This is an example of one. This was a general periodicals list. If you look, some of the titles are Esquire, Harper's, things like that didn't really fall into a specific subject area. So while our liaison librarians were reviewing the other sheets for their departments, Katie and I went through the extra sheets that didn't have a location that they kind of fit into. Once we got the feedback from our library liaisons, Katie and I reviewed all of those sheets to make sure we agreed with the selections that they made for retention and withdrawal, updated them as we needed. Once we got all that feedback from them and made the decisions we needed to make, all of the titles that we were going to retain that fit into the criteria we had selected, we removed those from the list. The only things remaining on the list were titles that were up for withdrawal. After that, we decided to share this with our faculty across campus. So we shared it in our library's faculty advisory council. Our dean shared it at the dean's council. We shared it in the academic council. There were several places that across campus this went. We had a representative in our staff that is a part of faculty senate, so she shared it there. This is an example of what we shared in our faculty advisory council meeting, just a timeline of what we thought we were going to do and how this was going to go. We sent those surveys out. Well, we used the sheets to create surveys. I'll talk about that more in a second, but we sent them out to our faculty across campus and gave them about a month to respond. Once we had all of the sheets prepared for each subject or department, our systems staff took those spreadsheets, put them into red cap surveys that we can then use to disseminate to our faculty across campus. This is an example of one. You'll see at the top, we tell kind of why we're doing this. We share the criteria that we used, how we got here. Then you'll see the titles started on the survey. So the first one was the American Neptune. We offer publication dates, local holdings, U.S. libraries with holdings, a link to our catalog record in case faculty want to do a little more deep digging on their own. And we also gave them the option to either select to withdraw or retain each title. If they chose to withdraw the title, they didn't have to do anything else. They finished the survey, they submitted it, we got the feedback. If they selected to retain a title, a text box would pop up underneath the catalog record link to give them an opportunity to justify why they thought we should retain that title. We sent these out, gave them a month to respond. We had a 13% return rate, which is low, but we also kind of expected it. And Katie will talk about what happened after that.
Okay, so once we had our basic list of things to be withdrawn, we did decide to keep almost everything that a faculty member asked us to keep. We took that list and divided it into more lists. I think I created approximately 600 spreadsheets for this project, but we divided it into lists of about 100 volumes each. Our library faculty, staff, and graduate assistants all assisted in removing items that were to be withdrawn. We also created a master list of spreadsheets for people to sign up on, so only one person was working on a given list at any time. Each spreadsheet was designed to take about an hour to remove all of the items so that people could work on it in small portions as they had time. We contracted with the city of Johnson City to provide us with recycling dumpsters for withdrawn items. State law forbids us from disposing of state property except by offering it to another state institution or through the government surplus auction. And we have learned through experience that nobody wants our bound periodicals. The next step was to integrate the two collections into room 257. And again, library faculty, staff, and graduate assistants helped with moving and integrating the two collections. This process is still ongoing. We're about probably halfway done. So how many items were withdrawn? Almost 45,000 items and approximately 2,300 titles. We cleared out 6,460 square feet of space and removed 4,206 shelves, which our facilities manager figured out, if laid end to end, would be about 2.5 miles long. Another benefit was it was very good PR for the library. The Department of State Sustainability posted about our project on their Instagram. And Blair.
Sure. So this is an example of what our sustainability office Instagram posts look like. Their page is called Go Green ETSU. The photo on the right is what the dumpsters look like. You would think that's a pretty large dumpster. It would hold a lot of items. Reality was we would fill it up in about half a day, and then we would have to wait for the city to come back to empty it and bring us a new dumpster the next morning. So what we would do in the meantime, the photo on the left shows books piled up on tables in that space. So once the dumpsters were full, we'd have our staff load the tables. Then once the dumpsters were empty, we'd have our GAs come at night, empty the tables, put them in the dumpsters, and the process would continue. It continued over several weeks. But then we did get some good PR from that. It was a lot of good feedback on the sustainability post about the project that we did, and they were very happy that we went about it the way that we did.
So more results, benefits. We now have a leaner cereals collection. We have a lot more space for our students to work and study. I'm in the process of cleaning up the catalog. We're modifying records to show our current holdings. We found some cleanup from previous reading projects. Some things didn't get taken off the shelves when they should have been. Oops. We located, as I mentioned earlier, numerous unbarcoded items, and we will look at these and make a decision of whether we want to withdraw them or barcode them and add them back to the collection. And some of them, we have found a lot of early and mid 19th century cereals titles, and we are going to assess whether those should go into our rare collection. Partly depends on condition and partly just depends on whether it really is rare or if it's just old. So problems that we encountered, and we did encounter several. Relatively few for a project this big, but at the beginning of the project, there was a minor data indexing problem regarding the location codes not being properly separated out in green glass. Was resolved with a few emails to OCLC. Some titles were not included in the green glass analysis, which was caused by legacy data from our older systems in the 035 field, which is where we keep the OCLC record number, that prevented green glass from matching our records with the WorldCat records, and we will go back and review these separately. And we also discovered that only one person at a time can work in a section of compact stacks, because if somebody else tries to come in, somebody gets smushed, and that's not pretty. But nobody got smushed, let me add that. But that did cause a few minor delays in removing items to be withdrawn and in reshelving, because sometimes people needed to be in the same section at the same time.
As Katie mentioned, there were several problems, so they continued a little bit outside of that. Katie and I were the leads on this project. We were the ones kind of running the show, driving the ship. When we got ready to remove the items from the building, when we got ready to start, we knew ahead of time that Katie was going to be out of town. She attended ALA. We started removing them. Our staff was flying through. They were getting rid of so many things so quickly. On a Friday afternoon, we got a call from our contractor saying, hey, if you can get these electronic compact stacks cleared by Wednesday, we will be there to remove them. So we had 3 days. Well, the following day, I was involved in a car accident and suffered injuries that caused me to go through surgery and miss several weeks of work. And so both of the leads now were no longer here to help with this project. Luckily, we have a wonderful administration, a wonderful staff, faculty, GAs. Everyone stepped up, dropped what they were doing, got the work done. The first deadline we needed to meet was the Wednesday to have the electronic compact stacks cleared. They made it. Right after that, the contractor said, hey, if you can have this 7th set of ranges of static shelving cleared by Friday, we can come back on Saturday. So they pushed again, got it done. And it happened again with the last set of shelves. I think we had 10 to 15 ranges left. And they said, oh, if you can move these out before Labor Day, we'll be there. We'll be able to get it done. So we were able to do that. If you remember, our original completion date was hopefully going to be August 28th. Unfortunately, just with some drawbacks that we had, we couldn't make that date. We did let the university know, let the students know ahead of time, like, hey, this lab's going to be closed, the space is going to be closed, but it's going to be great. You know, you're going to love it when it's done. So we were able to complete the whole process by September 7th. So September 7th, we had an open house for all of our faculty and staff and others that we share this building with. And then right after that party, we opened the space. Everyone seemed to love it, and it seems to have been heavily used since then.
Yeah. And they love it so much that students were sneaking into the space before it was officially open and before the renovations were complete. So
yes. And one other thing I want to mention is during this time, I think we had people removing books from the space. We had shelving being removed from the space. We had carpet being removed from the space and replaced. All of those things were happening simultaneously. So it's a little chaotic, but we all survived. We all still love each other. Nobody quit. We're all still here.
And the contractors were great and very cooperative with us.
Yes. And so I wasn't going to leave you hanging. I wanted you to see what the space looks like. You'll see the photo in the top left and the top right. You see the dark navy wall. That is the section where our electronic compact shelving once was. The line of tables you see leading up to that space is where static shelving was. And the photo in the middle is also where static shelving was. You could not see the windows from any space in that room 204, but now you can. And so it's beautiful. It's a great view. The students love it. You'll see the photo on the bottom is of our lab right before we opened it. You can now see straight from the lab to the windows outside.
So we have a few next steps. Of course, we would need to complete the reshelving of the collection and the integration of the two collections into one. I would love to do an inventory to make sure that what we think in the collection is actually there and is also reflected in our catalog. Then barcode those pesky unbarcoded items or withdraw them depending. And we are going to work on resolving the issues in the green glass remediation lists for those titles that still remain in the collection, because some of them will have gone in withdrawal, but we can work that out when we get there. But as Blair said, we feel this was really a successful process, and everyone seems happy with the results.
Yes, the students are enjoying the new open collaborative study space they have right now. Again, that's just what it's gonna look like temporarily. The longer term project is to have a really great, innovative technology hub in that space. But we are really happy with it. And we encourage you, if you're looking for space to your libraries, to consider projects like this. It was not easy and it was not fun for the most part, but we did do it, and it brought a lot of us together for a good cause.
So if you have any questions, we are available to answer questions. Otherwise, thank you for coming to our presentation and enjoy the rest of the conference.